Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, after nearly 18 years of marriage, OP discovers his wife's emotional and physical affair with a married colleague. Confronted with evidence, she expresses remorse but struggles with accountability. As he grapples with trauma, he navigates the complexities of trust, boundaries, and potential reconciliation, seeking individual and couples therapy while prioritizing the well-being of their two young children. Now let's get into the story. My wife has had both a physical and emotional affair with a married work colleague since early March. The AP, affair partner, lives nearby. We've been together for nearly 18 years, have two amazing kids, a great house and jobs, and we enjoy the support of our family with no major issues. D-Day was September 4th. I'd been a bit suspicious of some behavioral changes, such as increased alcohol consumption and phone use, a gym membership for the first time in years, and lots of new outfits. So rightly or wrongly, I looked at her phone, and I'm glad I did. She was hiding 10 months of WhatsApp chats by keeping them in her archives section to avoid notifications. The AP pursued her from November, and it seemed she was flattered by the attention. She deleted call records, but stupidly kept every message they had exchanged. In some ways, I think she wanted to get caught. I exported the information to the AP, and I'm glad I did. Entire chat that night is evidence and got all the juicy details. How they video call to chat and get each other off. How they sneak into the disabled toilet in the office to have intimate feel-ups in meeting rooms. A hookup on a business trip in a hotel. How they love and dream about each other. And how they wish they had found each other before they both settled and had kids. She even spoke to him about the things we were doing as a family and what my children were up to. The level of detail I've learned has completely messed me up. I decided what I wanted to say to her, then confronted her the next day. First, I asked if there was anything she wanted to tell me. She figured I'd seen a message on her phone, but didn't know the extent of it. She looked me square in the eye and lied, telling me there was someone she had grown close to at work, but that nothing had happened. After 20 to 30 minutes of fishing for the truth, I had to bring out the evidence and reel off a few quotes. Then it hit her that I knew it all. She was so sorry, didn't want to hurt me, was scared she'd lose her career, and worried about how our kids would be financially impacted, what her friends and family would think, and that I would tell the AP's wife. My initial reaction was that they had to go no contact, with him resigning the next day with no notice period if she had any interest in salvaging our family. She begged, saying that wasn't possible, that it would look odd and raise questions, that she needed handover notes from him. As he was the only one who knew how to use a particular work system, and I couldn't tell his wife because she could get her sacked for revenge, I stupidly conceded on the points raised for nearly 3 weeks, giving him time to find another job. It's been excruciating, and I feel if she was finally putting me first, she would have found a way for him to go right away. They've stopped all personal messages and calls since then, and are making sure time in the office together is limited. The AP is leaving the job very soon. She says she wants to work through this with me, but then she would because I've got her over a barrel. I haven't spoken to a divorce lawyer yet, but given the complexity of the situation, I realize now is probably the right time. As far as I was aware, our relationship was pretty solid. We laugh and joke, have fun, rarely argue, etc. Yes, communication could be better, but that's typical of many relationships. For years, I'd always had a higher intimate drive than her, which at times caused disagreements due to the frustration of all the chasing being one way. But it wasn't a deal breaker for me, as I loved her to death as my wife and the mother of our children. Clearly, I was just doing something wrong because she couldn't get enough of this guy and was doing things with him she won't entertain with me. I think she has some major issues to work through to justify in her head that all this was okay as long as no one knew or got hurt. I've been a mess and signed off work for 2 weeks. insomnia, anxiety, increased heart rate, not being able to think about anything else, etc. Are all symptoms I'm experiencing. I'm traumatized, but have now started individual therapy as of last Thursday, which is a positive step. The plan is for her to do the same, as well as couples therapy, to understand how and why this happened, even if we can't stay together. My confidence and self-esteem were already a bit dented due to other issues such as my weight increase since COVID, but this has knocked me to a new low. I'm broken but have been coping by eating better and doing couch to 5K to get fitter for both myself and my kids. My ability to trust another human being with anything meaningful evaporated that day. I could never have foreseen this scenario. I didn't think she was capable of this level of evil, secrets, and lies. I feel I gave up a lot for her, such as having children. Wouldn't change it now, but wasn't something I was sure on even into my late 20s. Choice of house location when we moved, and majority control of our finances. I put her on a pedestal and think she mistook this as a sign of weakness on my part. I now see narcissistic traits in her that perhaps I turned a blind eye to previously. Other than speaking to a mate and therapist, I've bottled this up for 3 weeks. She says she's awoken from a dream fantasy land and would take it all back if she could. I don't trust a word she says. If we're going to try to work through this, there will be a list of rules that must be followed. For example, I feel her telling our families what's happened would be an action showing she's ready to take some responsibility for all this. I'd then be able to have a wider support network to deal with this. Everyone thinks so highly of her. This will bring her down to earth with a bump. She thought she was untouchable and isn't. One minute I love her, and the next I hate her. I don't understand how she could do this to me or our children. I think it's taught me that anyone can be unfaithful given the perfect storm of circumstance. Infidelity sucks. Don't cheat on your partner. Instead, talk to them regularly about your relationship. Both the good and the bad. Always explore what you can do better. I hope you're never in my shoes, and my sympathies are with anyone who has to go through this. Any help and advice in dealing with all of this is appreciated. Thank you to everyone who has commented so far. I can clarify a few things. I suffered from insane jealousy and hysterical bonding upon first learning of all this. It's since cooled. We haven't had intimate but have been back in the same bed. I realize now that was way too soon and gives entirely the wrong impression of what my boundaries are. I've had unrestricted access to her phone since D-Day and will set up Find My iPhone tonight. She's already agreed to this. She has already agreed to both individual and couples therapy. The sooner her individual counseling starts, the better. She seems genuinely remorseful, and I may not have conveyed this well enough in the original post. She's repeated, "I'm sorry," shown lots of crying, and is upset at how much pain she has caused me, etc. While I don't want to give my kids' ages, I will say both are under 7 and one is at school. They know nothing of what's gone on. I don't see the need to traumatize them with this right now. Telling them when they are old enough to understand as an option. Intimate with the AP was unprotected twerking, twice, though I can't be sure it wasn't more often than I'm being told. She had an STI/STD test last week, and we are waiting on the results, which she will show me. She states in the chat to the AP early on that this was the first time she ever strayed. While of course I can't be sure, I do think this is likely the case. I agree with the general consensus that she is yet to face any repercussions, such as telling our family or the AP's wife. These are a must for any chance of reconciliation. I'm not set on either reconciliation or divorce. I'm open to this going either way, but need to see actions rather than words from her, with me dictating the narrative from here on in. The thing I need ASAP is no contact with the AP, and have stressed this to her. She earns double what I do. I don't want her to lose her job via gross misconduct, as it could make employment difficult going forward and directly impact my children's well-being. Rightly or wrongly, my stance was that she leaves the job of her own accord once she's found something else and get him to go ASAP, which he has agreed to. A date is agreed, but I won't share it here. Update 2. Thanks for all the advice and comments. It's given me some clarity around all of this. The AP has given notice to the employer, so we are moving closer to no contact. I am making sure I see the evidence of this also. I spoke to her in a calm and concise manner last night, talking about her needing to show accountability and responsibility, actions not words, etc. She can see I've removed the emotion from the situation as much as possible. That is, I'm no longer under her spell. It scared her. She can see I'm now taking the lead on things, and she won't have control of what happens next. I am working on my list of musts, and if she's not on board with every request, then there will be no chance of reconciliation. She has already verbally agreed to tell our families in my presence if I want this. We're sleeping in separate beds. I've made it clear to her I need to show her my boundaries right now. If I need to go nuclear, I can and will, but keeping that powder dry for now as I don't want to hurt my kids. I agree telling the AP's wife must happen, and the news would be best coming from my wife. But doing so right now potentially shoots me in the foot if my wife loses her job due to revenge and then can't pay me child maintenance. We also have an expensive mortgage and could struggle to keep up payments until the house is sold in the scenario of a divorce. A postnuptial agreement is a good idea if reconciliation is an option. I will look into it. We're looking into individual therapy for her as a priority, as both she and I need to understand how she was capable of this. Regardless of divorce or reconciliation, I think she has some narcissistic qualities, and I'd like her to explore that. I'm keeping all my options open while studying how she responds to what I need to happen. Right now, she is showing regret and remorse via emotions and body language rather than just words. I no longer give any validity to the words. I plan to read a couple of the articles and books that have been suggested. I also beat my best 5K time today. Today's second story. In this story, OP met his wife at a convention, bonding over their shared love for gaming and nerd culture. After 5 years of marriage, he discovered her affair with a man she met at another convention. He publicly confronted her, leading to their divorce. The incident gained attention on social media, and now he's moving forward, leaving the past behind. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I got married about 5 years ago. The two of us hit it off super well, and we always loved to do nerdy things together. She and I were both gamers. We loved anime and sharing our love of nerd culture with each other. She meant the world to me, and I always thought things were good. We fell in love really fast, about 3 years before we got married. In fact, I met her at a convention, and I thought that we would be a match made in heaven. We started off talking about our love for Legend of Zelda to even discussing the latest One Piece chapter. Some people look for the one. They're player 2. They're everything. For me, that was her. We got married a little fast and had this really nerdy wedding where we even encouraged people to dress up. However, we didn't get a chance to go to conventions. Due to our jobs and how much they cost, we rarely had a chance to. However, I wanted to make our 5-year anniversary special. I didn't make a lot of money, but I made enough to take care of her. I surprised her for her birthday with tickets to one of the biggest comic cons out there. It was one that people dreamed of going to. She was ecstatic, and I was so excited to go. Now, I never did well with women. In fact, I could never really pick up when they actually liked me until after. It was only after the fact that I realized it. Even with my wife, it took me 3 long conversations on Discord to realize that she had the hots for me and wanted to get to know me better. When we went to the convention, things were great. A gal dressed as slave Princess Leia kept gushing over my stormtrooper costume that I put together at the last minute. After she left, my wife pulled me to the side, talking about how that gal was all over me. I told her I didn't even realize it. I was so bad about reading the room that I didn't pick up the signs. My wife was a little bit frustrated, but we continued on with our day. It was a 3-day convention, after all. We went to this meetup. And that's when he came in. He was dressed as Han Solo. My wife, who was also dressed as Princess Leia, started talking to him. The two of them started talking a lot more, getting closer. I stepped in and mentioned I was the husband. The guy said it was nice to meet me, but refused to make eye contact. After he left, I confronted my wife. She said there was nothing going on, and he was just a nice guy that liked my outfit. She was the bigger Star Wars fan, so naturally, she liked gushing out. I brushed it off, thinking it was nothing. The weekend continued. The next day, my wife woke up sick and exhausted. I said that I would go down and be back later on. I left, but part of me couldn't shake what happened the other night. I chalked it up to maybe my own imagination. However, my wife wasn't answering my messages. We still had one more day before the end of the convention. I bought her something to gift to her after I got back up. When I approached the room, I heard sounds, moans and such. I dismissed it thinking it was maybe my wife. When I opened the door, I saw her there, looking at me. It was clear she did something. I confronted her, but she said that there was nothing. I looked around, trying to find someone, but there was nothing. I dismissed it. The convention passed. My wife grew distant. She worked longer hours and came home exhausted. I asked if she wanted to watch a movie together, but she would tell me that she was busy. I couldn't shake the moans that I heard. While my wife showered, I saw her Discord notifications turned off. She never turned these off during our relationship, so something was amiss. I opened her phone, surprised that the passcode was the same, and I began to read them. They were messages from the guy that she met at the Star Wars meetup. He kept flirting with her, and they exchanged pictures. He even mentioned he wanted to roleplay with her, and she was all about it. I angrily set the phone down and pretended like I never saw anything. My wife asked me if anything was wrong, and I lied and said I was fine. However, it was not fine. I researched how to get a divorce. This would be quite hard to serve, but I wanted to humiliate her and show her that I knew everything. I told her about another convention and how I wasn't going to be able to make it to this one, but she could go. Her eyes lit up slightly, even though we wouldn't be together. This was my partner, someone that I wanted to be with forever, who just tossed me away. It was a gut punch, but I couldn't let her on. On the day of the convention, I followed my plan. I did some research on this guy. They actually worked pretty closely together. I went to the convention and found them, of course, right in front of her favorite voice actors. That's when my plan came in. I watched them get in line and hid behind them. I wore a mask to hide my face, but watched them like a hawk. When they got closer, the voice actor was gone. Asked her about how she was. She pulled the man closer and said she was having a great day. They shared a kiss, and then that's when I made my plan. I moved right in between them, pulling off the mask and looking directly at my wife. She dropped her hand and looked at me. She asked what I was doing. I argued with her, saying that I caught her with him and that he cheated on me with him. She said that wasn't true, but I got the Discord messages, putting them right down on the table. The other attendees watched, shocked that I would even do something like this. However, I didn't want to let this go. I announced to everyone there that my wife was a cheater and she cheated on me with this guy whom she also met at a convention. The celebrity stood up, said that he needed a break, and then disappeared. My wife's eyes filled with tears, and she begged me to listen to her. However, I couldn't. I told her that she lied to me, saying she was going alone. I told her that I knew about the meeting up, about the late nights at the office gaming with the girls. I called them one day and asked. They said they didn't hear a thing about a gaming night since they were busy preparing for the holidays. My wife stood there, embarrassed. She told me that she wanted an open relationship and thought about asking me. I told her that I didn't want to listen to this. She was upset as well that I stepped in like that. However, I knew that she had messed up. We got home and I grabbed my things. Staying in a hotel, I grabbed all of my things and contacted an attorney so that we could get the paperwork ready to be filed. She tried to convince me to stay and that we should have an open relationship. She tried to say that I could sleep with other women and she could sleep with men. I never wanted that. I wanted her. She was my player too, my everything. My actions got traction. Someone recorded me embarrassing my wife and showed it all over social media. I proceeded with the divorce and I got the house and all our things. I sold it though because I didn't want to be reminded of the painful memories of the time we shared together. I don't know what happened to my wife. The nerd scene knew all about this and it was a huge stink on Twitter and other places for a while. Her boss eventually found out because of what they saw, and I'm not sure if she stayed or not. Frankly, I don't care. My quest for love continues, but not with a cheating woman like her.